Hello and welcome to 5th grade science. My name is Mrs. Sensenbrenner and I'm a teacher at Tompkins Middle School. Are you ready to learn today? Let's clear our minds and take a deep breath in through our nose like we're smelling a nice cup of hot chocolate. And out through our mouths. Some materials that might be helpful today are a pad of paper and maybe a pencil, just so you can sketch out and brainstorm right along with me. If you're new today, welcome to science with us. But if you were with me last week, it's glad to have you back. Remember last week, we talked a little bit about this giant? We're gonna carry on, but don't worry, if you're new, we're gonna review a little bit. So last week, we designed for extraordinary characters, and we're gonna continue that today, really focusing on the giant where we left off, and then we'll pick up with another one towards the end. So here's just, to catch us up, here's a little bit of a review. Vocabulary that we introduced is down at the bottom, but we have what's called a user, and that's who we're designing for. So our lesson is over design thinking and creating something for a specific user. And our user in this case is the giant. Now I made some claims. All I have to go off of for the giant are these pictures. But I need to figure out what I know about her and really get to know, so I design something that she's gonna use. So my claims are what I know. That was one of our vocabulary words. Based on the pictures, I came up with 4 claims. And in science, when we state a claim, we state it as what we truly believe. We don't use words like I think. We say, she is a friend to humans. It's a declarative statement. So we're making a claim based on pictures. We might have to check our evidence to see if all of my claims are really true. I can't say a claim that's not true if I don't have evidence to back it up. So last time we were together, we went through and we looked at evidence to support our claim. So if I made a claim that she's a friend to humans, I need to make sure it's clear that I can support that claim. Otherwise, I shouldn't go around telling people she's a friend. And what I've highlighted in a picture were just a couple of the pieces of evidence that we talked about last time. So she's a friend to humans because she was being really helpful getting them up the ski slope. And she's a friend to pets and animals because she has a pet and she was also letting the birds take a rest on her back. I couldn't find any evidence to support my claim that she liked archery, so I had to cross it off. And we were able to say that she had trouble shopping because we noticed with our power of observation, she only had one dress and she wore it in all the pictures. It looks like she slept in it, it looks like she worked in it, and she went out in it. She had 2 pairs of shoes that she was really creative with. A boat as a pair of shoes and then some clogs in her other picture. So some of our evidence was used to support our claims, but if we have a claim that didn't have any evidence, we had to cross it off. So at the end of our last lesson, we started thinking about designing a pair of pajamas for our giant. Seeing as she only had one dress that she always wore, we left off with the challenge to design a pair of pajamas. And we needed to take some considerations because our giant's very unique. Remember, she's extraordinary. She has a unique physical appearance and she has a unique job. She uses her mighty lungs to blow to make wind power for the local town to have energy. We have to take into account her environment. There's some snow on the ground, so it's really cold at some times of the year. And then it looks like she lives in a wet, damp cave, which could also be pretty cold. Here we see some green, so she looks like she goes up the mountain and down the mountain from cold to warm climates. And we also have to think about accessibility. How easy is it for her to use, and is she going to want to use it? So that was our challenge. So now I've brought everybody up to speed and we're ready to get started on our take on our pajamas. So today's lesson objectives is to identify a simple problem with the design of an object. So I've highlighted a problem. What I want you to look for is we have to see it, do all pajamas fit the need of the giant? There might be some problems there that we have to identify. And is it going to be a need or that the giant wants? We also have to think about criteria for success and constraints. A constraint is a limit. So we only have certain factors of material, time, and cost to be able to design our pair of pajamas around. The next lesson objective is to construct and compare multiple plausible solutions. So plausible is another word for possible solutions, and I'm gonna do one solution today, and each of you are gonna do a solution at home. So we have multiple solutions that could all be possible for our giant. And remember, we want each one to meet the criteria and the constraints of our problem. So when thinking about our giant again, it's typical when looking at a pajama design to look at what we currently wear in our own homes or what's available at the stores that we shop at. So I've picked 2 pajama designs. But what would be a problem? Remember, this is one of our objectives. What would be a problem with these 2 designs that would not be beneficial for our giant to go out and use these, even if we could make them in a much bigger size for our giant? There's something wrong. Can you spot a couple or one with these designs? I'll give you an arrow. I'll give you a hint. There's an arrow pointed to one. This one's likely kept on by a zipper, and the zipper would need to be really long. I don't know about you, but I haven't seen a zipper that's the size of a building. So that material might be a constraint, just to having a zipper keeping her pajamas on. Now, if that was a constraint on that design, what would be a constraint to this design? Can you spot another problem that might limit us? What about the buttons? Can you imagine how big a button would be for a giant to be able to maneuver it with its fingers? We couldn't have a little button, otherwise it would take forever, or it wouldn't be able to pinch it between its fingers. So those buttons would have to be enormous, just like our zipper would have to be really big. So let's pick a different design. Those were problems with designs that we're familiar with, so I'm gonna make another one. Here's a design that could meet. It's kind of similar to the dress she's already wearing. I sketched this out as prototype 1. So you can see I just took my pad of paper and just started drawing of what, if I took away those problems, how would she get a pair of pajamas on her? So I just made it like a nightshirt. So a prototype is the first model of something that you're thinking about building. So this is my first prototype. If she only has one dress already and we're making her a nightgown, could we make it better than just a plain Jane t-shirt? Yeah, I think we can do a lot better with our design process. And as we continue to build onto our design, that's called an iteration. Notice already here would be 3 iterations of this same t-shirt dress. An iteration is a new version. So this one has a different neckline from this one and this one. But every time we make an improvement to a design, we're making a new iteration. We don't just stick with our first design and take it and put it into production and start selling it. We're gonna make it the best we can by adding things. Can you think of a design that continues to be released with better functions, better capabilities? What about the iPhone? So we're all familiar with the iterations of an iPhone. We started at the 2G and now we're even beyond the 6 Plus. Each one of these, they improved something, they may have released a new function, and they gave us a better product. So this is an iteration. They didn't just stick with the 2G for the past 10 years. They've continued to upgrade and give us a new model. We want to do the same for our giant. We want to give her the best possible pair of pajamas. It's only going to be the second dress that she owns. So let's think about it. An iteration is not, I'm just building it and giving her one piece at a time. I'm not just gonna give her a sleeve or a half a dress. An iteration is that I've given her a wearable product. So in this case, I could release a skateboard, and now I've given it a handle in the second iteration. And then my legs got really tired, so in the third iteration, I decided to put some pedals so I don't have to constantly push with my feet. Well, I was still getting really worn out, so maybe in the 4th iteration I gave it a motor, but the next iteration I wanted to bring a friend, so now I have a car. Each iteration should be a product, not just a piece of a product. So keep that in mind as we go through this process. So let's take a look again about our giant and think of things that she might need. How can we make this dress the best pajamas that she could have to use it for multiple functions? She's really limited on what she has already. So we want to really help her out. We've got the environment. She helps people. She's got some tools in here. She's got a table made out of rocks and clay with trees in it. So we've got to really pay attention to these details. So let's look at what we can improve upon this dress. Think about when you've been shopping, what other options are there for different styles of pajamas? And I'm going to give you 20 seconds to just brainstorm. Just brainstorm some ideas based on the pictures of how you can improve upon this. And sketch out any ideas you may have. Think you've got a couple? All right. My next question to you to add to your brainstorm is, now that we've made some improvements, what can we add? And these might be things that don't exist on pajamas. If you had a special pair of pajamas that could do something fun, what would you put on it? So these are some things that just brainstorm freely. There is no wrong answer with a brainstorm. This is where it can get really fun and really creative. So if you were designing for this giant, what would you add to it to make it fun and exciting and really useful for her? And it doesn't have to exist on human pajamas. This is something specially for her. So we're going to add to your brainstorm now. I'm going to give you 20 more seconds for you just to sketch out some more ideas. Really take a look at the pictures. Think you've got a couple? Well, I was thinking of some too that I thought maybe she would like. And some things that I considered as I was brainstorming is what type of fabric I would use. Remember, we have some limits. It's going to be really hard just to take a bed sheet or take a long time to take a bed sheet and take your bed sheet and my bed sheet and sew them all together. So I was thinking, what fabric already exists in such large pieces? And then I thought biomimicry, and I'll talk about that word in just a second, but I thought maybe this giant is only a friend to that community. Maybe she doesn't want everybody to see her. And then I thought I'd add some fun accessories. So when I was thinking about fabric durability, I thought about a parachute. How big is a parachute at the top? It's really big. So I thought maybe I could use a couple of parachutes. And then something special with the parachute is the weaving inside of it. Do you think you want a parachute to tag and have a big rip in it, or to tear and have a big rip in it? No. The stitching on a parachute has reinforced crisscrosses like a checkerboard all over it. So a tear will only go to the stitches. And it's a really smart design of the product. So I thought I would use a parachute not only because of how big it is, but also if she snags it on a tree in her cave or a rock, the tear won't be very big, and that means she could last a lot longer with her pair of pajamas. I thought biomimicry. Can you use your detective skills and your language arts skills to recognize some prefixes to see if you can figure out what the word biomimicry means? Do you remember what the prefix bio means? Biology, the study of living things. Well, bio means life. In mimic, if I'm going to mimic you, I'm imitating you. So what do you think the type of fabric that would have biomimicry is? I'll give you a clue. It's kind of like a chameleon. I think it'd be really fun if we had a fabric that could change based on her environments. So if she wanted to hide, she could just maybe have a hood on her pajamas and tuck her head in, and it would turn into her surroundings. So maybe not every friend is a friend to giants. Every human is a friend to giants. So I thought this would be an added layer of protection, or maybe there is an animal out there that wants to bother her and climb in her cave. So biomimicry fabric would be really cool. And I don't know of anything that exists, so this is one that just my imagination thought that this would be really fun and almost magical. My next thought was accessories. What type of accessories, like a pocket or extra functions, could I add to the design of her pair of pajamas? Would you want pockets in your pajamas? Well, I think she would like it based on how much stuff she has in her hands and birds. She's got people. So I thought maybe a pocket would come in handy. So this is my sketch. I just sat down and took our first design and started adding to it. I started adding some pockets because I thought if she's traveling around, then I really wanted to make use of this one dress. And who knows, she might really like this one dress and choose to wear it all the time and replace her other dress as her pair of pajamas. I also thought, according to her environment, I've noticed we could use ruffles as an added design, but if I tie them up, it can be a short dress for when it's warm, but then maybe I can release the ties and extend the extra fabric to make sure she's kept warm when it's snowy and cold in her cave. So I thought that would be an extra added function just for her, because we want to make sure this is a really functional piece of clothing for her since she's only going to have one pair of pajamas that we're designing. I also added little mini pockets because I thought if she's carrying people here, maybe she wants to take them for a longer ride. And if she had lots of little pockets in her dress, she could tuck a person in and walk around with them and take them further distances. So I thought mini pockets for human passengers would be a really fun addition. I also made her dress reversible, so she can have one design on the inside and one design on the outside and flip it whenever she wants. So it's almost like having two dresses in one. And then this is my reinforced stitching to prevent the tears from the parachute. What other things could you add to this design? I can hear you. You want to shout one out? Oh, solar powered. Maybe solar powered stitching and thread. So if we had some stitching going up and she left it out during the day, it would glow and be like a mobile nightlight. That's a really good idea. There's also magnetic thread. So we could sew with some magnetic thread and she could put a little tool attached to her. So there's a lot of good ideas out there. Thanks for sharing that one. But this is just one simple idea of a pair of pajamas that we took and recognized her needs and iterated, and now I think she might really like it. The next step in the design process is to go out and actually make a model. So these are some of my previous students this year at Tompkins, and they are sewing in science and cutting out with cardboard, going ahead and making a miniature prototype of their design. So if you've got supplies at home and you want to go ahead and make a full-length one or a miniature one, this is a really good idea to practice some extra skills in making a model. So now I want to challenge you, and we're going to go through this one more time, but I'm going to put more emphasis on what your ideas are. And we're going to do a spy. So this is what's called We Do. I've done the first one, and now I want to challenge all my returning students and my new students out there to let's do something else for another extraordinary character. But first, remember, the first process is to get to know them. So we're going to play a quick little game. We're going to get moving, and we're going to play this or that. So in my classroom, after a little bit of talking, we need to get up and move around. So I want you to stand up, stretch, get off where you're sitting, and if you agree with a certain statement, you're going to move to this way or that way based on what you think the spy would like. So we're going to look at her picture again. So in our spy, in this picture, she's talking on her watch. She's got, looks like a scuba suit on, and she's flying above the water. And in this picture, she's got a fancy dress on, but she's used some gadgets in her high heel. Looks like it's got a grappling hook, and she's running away from some people. Here, it looks like she took out some bad guys, and she's looking to see if she can maybe break in a safe. So she's got a lot of new gadgets. Here's a gadget on her eye, a gadget in her hand, and she's got a lot of different tools to make her a spy that can travel around well. So let's think about it. We really want to make sure we give her a gadget that she's going to like, but let's think about what things is she interested in. Would she rather speak every language, or speak to animals? What do you think? What skill do you think would come in handy for a spy? I know I would really like to speak to animals, but I think for our spy, I'm thinking like her, I would go this way and choose to speak every single language without even thinking about it. If I just started talking, it changed to whoever needed that language. Now, what about a tech tool? Do you think our spy is going to FaceTime or text? What do you think? Think of her needs. I'm going to go over here with text just to maybe keep her identity secret. Maybe she doesn't want everybody to know her face right away, so I'm going to choose text. And she can text on the go, or maybe she can use the talk to text feature so she can do it from way up in the sky when she was hanging on that ladder. Now, what type of pet would our spy want? Do you think she would like a dog, or do you think she would like a cat? Just because of what I know with canine and how well they're trained to be good detective dogs with the police, I'm going to go with probably a dog. As long as you have an idea to back up, you can pick different ones based on the character of your spy, as long as you think it meets their need. So we're going to design a gadget. We want to meet their need again, remember our objectives, for a spy. And we have to have multiple plausible solutions. So you're going to design a gadget, and so are you, and so are you, and then I'm going to design a gadget. But we have some criterion. Remember, that was part of our objective. We have to meet her needs. So she needs something that's going to be small. She needs something that has to have multiple functions. Remember, her high heel turned into a hook. So she's got to have a lot of availability. If she's going to wear something, has to have a rescue function and a secret function. And she was very fashionable. So we want to make sure that all of these fall into one with our gadget that we're about to create. So let's brainstorm some ideas. This is my prototype. What do you think it is? I prototyped based on teaching with all my middle school students. I did a scrunchie. So why do you think I chose a scrunchie to meet these criterion? Is a scrunchie small? Let's evaluate my prototype. Yeah, I could wear it on a wrist and go unnoticed. Could it have multiple functions? That's the fun part. I think we can definitely make a scrunchie do multiple things besides just tie hair back. Is it fashionable? Right now it's really fashionable. So we can make sure, I think we can hide a lot of fun gadgets for our spy inside of a scrunchie. Now you might have chosen something different, and that's okay. There are multiple possible solutions to meeting her need. So let's take a look at my scrunchie design. I thought it'd be really cool if when I put the scrunchie in my hair that it disrupted Wi-Fi signals and radio signals. Why would that be important to a spy? Well, we saw in the picture when she was going into the surveillance room to look at the safe, that it might have been easier if she just squeezed her scrunchie and all of those radio signals and video surveillance just went out at the touch of a scrunchie. Something else that I thought would be really cool was what if when I wore my scrunchie, it had holographic hair color capabilities. That when I put it in and thought the purple would be great, it would turn my hair purple. So going along those lines of the biomimicry for our giant, that this holographic hair color could be used as a disguise function. Could also be a tracking device or a long distance listening device. I know that a lot of students in my class like to give their scrunchies to boys, and then the boys go walking around with some scrunchies on their wrist. And so now with my super secret spy scrunchie, I know exactly where that boy is and exactly if he's talking about me, and I can use all my functions to track him and see if he really likes the spy or not, or what else he's doing. So I thought that would be a really cool function for how much they're around right now and nobody would notice. What else did you design? Do you like these ideas? Are these possible? Do they meet the needs of our spy? Yeah, you could do a scrunchie. You could also do a belt buckle and maybe even have it do the exact same functions. But if you don't think she's going to be wearing a scrunchie, maybe make it as a function for a belt buckle. So there's a lot of different possible solutions for this problem to meet her needs. And that's what's so fun about the design process. So did we meet our objectives today? I think you guys recognize some pretty good problems with the design of a pair of pajamas to meet the needs of the giant. Human pajamas not only are limited in size, but some of the functions like the zipper and the buttons were definitely a constraint. And we came up with some plausible solutions, multiple, to fit the need of our spy. So could you possibly iterate the scrunchie and make it better? Or iterate your belt buckle and make it even better so that your gadget design is really extraordinary for our character? What can we add to the design to specifically meet the spy needs? Is there something more that I haven't thought of that you did? That's the fun about the design process. So in the design process, this is what we've gone through in the past 2 lessons. We empathized and got to know our user. And once we got to know them, we were able to define a problem or a need that they wanted. And in this case, it was a pajamas and a gadget. Then we brainstormed together, and if we had time, we could have actually built a prototype of our scrunchie or even our pair of pajamas. Once we have a prototype, we could then take it back to the giant or take it back to the spy and say, would you use this? Is this something you like? Or is it not something you like? After they've given us feedback, what do you think we do from there? We go around again, and we keep going around again. So does it ever end? Well, companies are continuing to release products. Apple Music is continuing to evolve. The Mustang car releases a different model every couple of years, so iterations are important as technology and people change. So that's the fun part, and it's really a creative process. As long as you can recognize the need, see a problem with the existing design, and brainstorm new ideas. So I challenge you to keep a lookout and stay creative. And maybe try to iterate your designs to see what else you can do during this next week for your design of a pair of pajamas or a scrunchie or a new gadget for either our giant or for our spy. Thank you and have a great week.